Hi, Laura. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing all right.
All right. How has the past week been?
It's been okay. There's been ups and downs.
What were some of the ups that you experienced?
Today at work was fine. It was fairly non-stressful. I got to do some less stressful activities that were actually like funner to do. Like Christmas is coming up, and we always collect gifts for our kids that are in foster care, and so we have to send out lists to all our foster parents um, so that we can get like what the kids need, what they want, like shoe size, shirt size, all that good stuff. Like basically a Santa list, so that we can get these gifts, mittens hung on the trees and stockings hung up and sent out to the agencies that help us, and then we can collect gifts for the kiddos. And so today I worked on like putting together, like creating the actual list, the form that we send out to our placement providers. And then I also we collected money because we have an older youth summit for all of our older youth kiddos on Friday, and they want like there to be a lot of door prizes so that all the kids can leave with prizes. So our office collected money and decided to do like laundry basket full of goodies for the kids. We're doing a boy basket and a girl basket. So like this afternoon, I gathered up all the money and I went to Walmart and purchased all the items and got the baskets ready. So that was actually like very not stressful and something that I enjoy doing. So, and I got to get out of the office and get away. So that was a good thing.
Good. What were some of the things you experienced maybe that were a little bit rougher this week?
Well, not so much rough this week, but rough at the end of last week. Like Friday was just very stressful. We had a foster parent call. Um, well, she actually called on Thursday and said she wanted two kids that had been placed in a home moved by the following day, which was very frustrating and stressful because foster parents are supposed to give 2 weeks notice. That's part of their training, and that's part of the expectations that they're instructed about, like when they have kids. That's basically common courtesy, not to call and say, come get this kid, right now. So that was frustrating that they wanted the kid moved in less than 24 hours. And so I was on the phone off and on for probably 3 hours on Friday afternoon trying to find a placement for these kids to go. And that was very stressful. And then on top of that, we got an OHI report on one of our other foster homes, which we've had concerns about for a long, long time. That we've continuously expressed to the licensing people, and they never did anything about. So we ended up getting this OHI report with some significant concerns about the foster parents, and we had to move 2 kids from that home and find a different placement for them. So we had a high stress going on in the office on Friday, but luckily we were able to resolve that.
Okay.
But it just was not fun.
Yeah. Would you say that in all the stress and things that you had going on, were you working more in your worker hat or your supervisor hat?
Both.
Both.
And I didn't have to deal directly with those situations because the kids that were part of the OHI report at the foster home, like, were our kids that belong to a worker that the other supervisor supervises. So they dealt with that situation. And then the kids that we had to, where the foster parent called and wanted them moved on Friday, that's actually a case that I've been case managing for the last several months, that one of the new workers just took over on October 1st. So I'm in the supervisory role in that case, but I've been the case manager, and she's a new worker and she's brand new, and I didn't want this just dumped on her to deal with. So I was being supervisor, and we were kind of tag teaming it. So I was being supervisor and telling her what I needed to do, but then I was also being case manager and talking to the licensing worker and calling foster homes and trying to find placement. So I would say it was good.
That sounds a little bit less stressful and more like the ideal that you had expressed that you like before, being able to help out and guide, but not do it all.
Yeah, I would say it was more so supervisor, because like I would help out with those types of situations, like regardless. Like that would be something that I would normally do to try to support my staff. So
Okay. Well, let's check in and see how you did with your homework. I'm going to say you had identified that maybe you would try and make contact with your supervisor to ask her to help you with some of the things that you had to do, reports and stuff, because you were being overwhelmed.
right.
So how did that go?
I really haven't seen my supervisor that much since we met last, let's see, we met on Wednesday, and I don't remember if she was in the office on Thursday or not, but she was off work on Friday and on Monday. And then she was in the office yesterday, and she was there today. But I haven't had an overabundance of hotlines or anything like that, so I really haven't had the need to ask her
Okay.
to help with anything. I mean, the highest stress situation would have been on Friday when we were dealing with those disruptions, but she wasn't around, so we kind of dealt with it ourselves. But I've been able to manage everything
Okay.
since we last spoke.
Okay. Well, I'd like to kind of talk about an agenda and what we maybe want to look at today with what we want to work on. What would you like to put on the agenda?
I don't know. I think I'm feeling like better overall as far as like the managing like the supervisor and the case manager aspects of my responsibilities right now. I am starting to get not necessarily anxious. I was feeling a little anxious at one time, at one point last week, about my upcoming practicum, because I unfortunately was a procrastinator and like waited to the last minute to send like the practicum application and the in-work placement request form to my advisor. So I was freaking out, like trying to get those done and in on time. And like think of how exactly this practicum would look. But I was able to meet with my field support manager today, and like we hashed out this good plan for me to do family reunification services within the region. So I feel a lot better. And I think I just like I'm gonna have to be a supervisor and do an even larger practicum than what I just got finished doing. So that just makes me a tad bit nervous, like being able to successfully divide my time between the two, because this line of work is plagued by frequent crises and emergencies, and you can't always necessarily, like you can plan to your heart's desire and say like, oh, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to supervise, and on Thursday and Friday, I'm going to go do family reunification. But that doesn't mean that that's how that's going to end up, because you can't foresee what disasters are going to be waiting.
Okay, so maybe brainstorming some ways to deal with stress and anxiety about the upcoming practicum and juggling it with work, or is there a different direction you'd like to go?
No, I would say that's probably fair. Just like that, I think it still all comes back to like the stress of like being in multiple roles at one time. It's like just being a supervisor is perfectly fine. Like I'm used to that. And when I was just a case manager, that was perfectly fine because I did it for 5 years and I was used to that. But case manager, supervisor, practicum student, it's just a little too much.
So is there any other things that you feel like you'd like to work on?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, with that, I'd kind of like, because we've talked about work, the work and the different hats that you work with your practicum and stuff. I'm a little bit curious, I'm going to say, because there's been kind of a theme of, you know, you want to give 100% all the time in everything that you do. Would you say that is or is not accurate?
I would say it's very accurate. Like I like doing things well. So
Okay. What does your expectation of yourself with your schoolwork, in not counting your work, what do you expect out of yourself when you're working on school projects?
I expect to do well. Like I think I have high expectations for myself, and I want to get good grades. And I wouldn't say that I'm the type that like have to do everything perfectly. I'm not the type that if I get a 96% on a test, I don't sit there and sue over why I didn't get a 98 or a 100, because the 96 is perfectly fine. But I do have like somewhat of a baseline expectation for myself, and I like to do well.
Okay.
Sure.
Would you be happy if you got a 80% instead of a 90%?
I think it depends on what it is. For example, like when I was in grad school, one of the hardest classes I ever took was Western Civ, and that class drove me crazy because it didn't matter like how much I studied, like whatever I studied was not like what was on the test. So if I had gotten an 80% on a Western Civ test, I had been thrilled. But I may not have felt that way like in statistics or in abnormal psych or a class that was easier for me.
Okay. Good enough. So you have that. What are your expectations of yourself at home?
I like to think that I am a good mom and a good wife. My husband works on the road a lot. He's a Boilermaker, so he's home at times and then he's traveling on the road at times. So I'm home alone a lot, like just me and the kids. So like I am not only like work and school, but also single parenting when he's on the road. So I'm solely responsible for making sure everybody's homework's done, including my own, and making sure they're fed something decent and they're bathed and they get to bed on time. And so that can be stressful, but I have like expectations of myself of things that I want to accomplish and get done and make sure, I don't know, I guess things are to my standards. I don't know if that makes sense. But.
Right. And do you feel like you are having difficulties meeting your expectations with your dealing with the kids and the home life?
I think sometimes it's harder than others. Like, sometimes you just get so emotionally drained at work that I just want to come home and like I'm like a big like veg person. Like I need at least like an hour of time at the end of the day, like after I send the kids to bed, to just like sit on the couch and do something like completely mindless, whether it's watch TV or browse the internet or whatever. Just I need that wind down time. And so sometimes I need that more than others, like because work can be emotionally exhausting, and the last thing I want to do is come home and fight about homework and Common Core math that is ridiculous, and book reports and reading logs, and sometimes we just make it work, but sometimes it's more stressful than others.
Okay, when you were talking about like TV, internet, things like that, those are good coping skills. Are there other things that you use to help yourself kind of de-stress and unwind from the day, as you put it?
I don't know. I would say that's the biggest one. But I like listening to music. Like listening to music is, especially like turning the music up loud, like on my drive to and from work. Like, and again, it's more kind of like mindless driving with just the music going on in the background. So like listening to music, watching TV, just spending time with my kids doing fun stuff. But then you also have the stress of like you have all these other things that need done. Like we have homework that needs to be done, and we have supper that needs to be done. And so by the time all that's done, then it's bedtime or it's bath time and bedtime, and so like just making it all work is stressful.
Okay. Well, and like you were saying, your new practicum coming up sounds like it's going to be more demanding, more time, more everything out of your schedule. I'm going to say, and you were hard on yourself previously with your practicum and, being hard and expecting 100% out of yourself all the time. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that I expect 100% out of. I think ideally I would like to give 100% all of the time. I don't think that was reality, like when I was doing my practicum and being a supervisor and being a case manager. But I do. I don't think I'm so rigid as that I'm like I have to give 100% because I do believe that there's like a good enough is good enough threshold, and as long as I get there,
Okay.
I can cope.
What does good enough look like? Because previously when we kind of had talked about things, you were pretty rigid in your, I want to give 100%. You weren't allowing yourself to recognize that I have a lot of things going on, so it's okay that I maybe am not perfect.
Well, and I don't even know if it was so much like rigidity that I have to give 100%. I want to give 100%, and that, like, in an ideal world, that's what my expectation is. That's what I should be able to do. But I don't think I haven't like been able to give 100% as a supervisor or 100% as a case manager or practicum student, just because like my attention was divided in so many areas. So I did have to like get to a point where good enough was good enough. Like if I didn't get everything accomplished for my practicum that I wanted, but I met my hours, that was good enough.
Okay. So what would you think, kind of say, maybe we need to work on some things that you can tell yourself or recognize so that you, with the new practicum, are easier on yourself and more readily recognize that, no, I didn't get to the 100%, but I've done a good job, to where you're comfortable with the fact that, I have too many things going on. Not everything can be 100%. Would that be something you'd be interested in exploring more?
I think so.
Okay. What kind of things or what kind of sayings could we maybe develop or examine that might help you to remember that fact?
I don't know. I think just remembering, like, not holding myself to different standards than what I hold with other people. Because I have, over the last couple of months, I've had staff kind of freak out, feel anxiety over like being behind on monthly narrative or monthly summaries. And my go-to response is always, oh my gosh, like don't worry about it. As long as our kids are being seen, it's okay, because we're down so much staff and there's no possible way that we could meet all of these expectations because we don't have the staff that we should have. Like you're carrying a 2.7 caseload instead of a 1, caseload. And so like it's perfectly fine. Like nobody expects you to be able to do all these things when you have all these factors going against you. So it's very easy for me to recognize that and reinforce that like with other people. But then I kind of get down on myself.
Right.
And think, oh, I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing it well enough. And so I think just reminding myself, like just to not like set higher standards for myself than what, I expect out of the other people that I work with.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent observation. So what could we do with that thought or that information to help you remember that and maybe adopt that?
I don't know.
Did it work well for you when we wrote down on index cards the different sayings for you to look at daily? Was that useful, or do you feel like we should maybe try and identify something different?
I think that could be helpful. Even like I don't know, just having something like I don't know what word I'm looking for, like a trigger, something that triggers my mind to think, oh, like a sticker
Okay.
or a sticky note or whatever, just something that makes me think.
Okay.
Hey, don't overdo it. Don't overset your standards. So
Okay.
maybe.
So let's identify what we would want to write down, and I want you to make a note of that now. What would you like that to say that would best help you remember to not hold yourself to higher standards than you hold other people?
I don't know, even just something as simple as that. Like don't expect more out of yourself
Okay.
than you can reasonably expect out of, other people who are in similar situations as you. So
Okay, so why don't you write that down? Don't expect more out of myself than I expect out of other people. Is that good enough?
yeah, I'm writing it.
Now, where do you think would be helpful places around home, vehicle, work? Where do you think would be the best spots for you to plant that saying?
Probably on my computer at work, and I don't know, the vehicle might be a good one too. Like, I think a lot in the vehicle.
Okay.
So maybe like just something that would remind me, don't stress out too much.
Okay. What if we write that and put, one of those in your vehicle and one at work on your computer, like you said, and kind of start concentrating on that. And when you start noticing yourself expecting more and being hard on yourself, just kind of stop and reading that.
I think I could probably do that.
Yeah. So when out of like a 0 to 10, would it be accurate to say that you're expecting a 10 out of yourself all of the time?
I don't think all of the time.
Okay.
I think that again, it's hard. I think it's kind of hard to explain. Like ideally, I would like to be able to give a 10 all of the time. But
Okay.
I don't think that I'm able to give a 10 all of the time. So there's like I think I have somewhat of an internal threshold, like maybe
Okay.
like an 8.5.
Okay. So would an 8.5 be an acceptable number for you?
I think in most situations, yes.
Okay. I want you on your paper that we wrote down that on. I'd like for you to write on there 8.5 is acceptable.
Okay.
Kind of remind yourself that while it might not be a 10, we're okay. So we're about done with our meeting today. So what kind of things did we go over today? What did you get out of our meeting?
Just, being able to process some of the stress that I'm feeling is always helpful. Like I'm a big advocator for venting. I think it can be productive if done in the right way. And so that's helpful. But then also too, just like kind of being able to talk it out and like think of the reminders and issue myself the reminders that I'm really not being fair to myself if I am expecting much more of myself than what I expect out of, others in my situation. And
Okay.
just reminding, like, there are a lot of reasons why things can't be, like, as good as I would want them to be right now. And so just reminding, like, there's good enough, and good enough is good enough sometimes. So.
Right. Is there anything that we could do differently to improve our sessions?
I don't think so.
Okay. So for homework, you've got our phrase that we've wrote, that you shouldn't expect more out of yourself than you expect out of others. And then we also added to that 8.5 is okay. We're going to put those in the car and at work. And I'd like you to kind of just see how many times throughout the week that you are maybe noticing those or reading them to kind of remind yourself, you know, are you noticing that you read it once or twice a day? Is it, you know, multiple times a day? And how does it make you feel once you've read them? Do you feel better? And
Okay.
I don't need great, just is it better or is it worse?
Okay.
Okay. How about we meet again same time next week?
Works for me.
All right. Thanks, Laura. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.